Okay, want to know where to find brands on brands on brands this fall? At Ross. They've got big savings on the latest fall styles. Seriously, you'll find the brands you want at prices you'll love. At Ross. Yes, for less.
Cut the commute and up the convenience for your next dermatologist visit. Non-segmental vitiligo patients 12 and older can virtually discuss repigmentation with Opzelura ruxolitinib cream as soon as today. Get started on your pursuit for repigmentation with topical Opzelura. Visit Opzelura.com to connect with a derm to see if Opzelura is right for you. Provider availability may vary. For patients taking therapeutic biologics, other JAK inhibitors, or strong immunosuppressants such as cyclosporin, Opzelura is not recommended.
Opzelura can lower your ability to fight infections. Tell your doctor if you have or had an infection, TB, hepatitis B or C, blood clots in your legs or lungs, heart attack, stroke, cancer, high cholesterol, are a smoker, or pregnant. Opzelura may cause serious lung infections, certain cancers, immune system problems, blood clots, and low blood cell counts. Major cardiovascular events or death occurred in those 50 plus taking oral JAK inhibitors. The most common side effects were acne and itching where applied.
Call 866-564-8484 to learn more about prescription Opzelura for non-segmental vitiligo.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wholeheartedly with Kendall and Galey. We are so happy to be here. I don't know if we've ever said this before, but we record this on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. And just to give you a sense of where I'm at right now, I am in the middle. I've been ripping out my outdoor fireplace for the last, since like 7 a.m. And I'm building a new fireplace. So I am covered in liquid nail glue all over my hands from trying to glue these pieces together. And I also realized that my shirt is backwards. So like the tag.
I was about to say, it looks really tight in the, like, by
my boobs are where my back should be right now. And I've just been going strong and I'm doing all these transitions and I don't want anything to look different in between the cuts. So if I were to turn my shirt around and suddenly it fits better, I kill my transition. So now I'm stuck in this backwards shirt for the rest of the day. So that's where I'm at. Kendall, where are you at right now? How is life?
Well, I don't know where I'm at ever because I'm always in a new location. I'm actually at my place I live in New Jersey, guys. Like I've said, I live in New York. I live in New Jersey. I'm renting it to list. I'm listing it to rent. Hold, please. Let me swig some bean water.
Ew, I'm throwing up a little bit when I see you drink that crap. That's so gross.
I am going to drink so much bean water in front of you when I live in Florida. You are going to get a strong stomach and zero gag reflex, Galey, because I live off this. You know me. I love it. Anyway, this week was wild. It was World Mental Health Day, which was absolutely amazing. There was a huge moment, huge activation we did with Lululemon. Get this. This is just like proud partner. Have to brag about them a little bit. They raised $3.1 million. But there were also, typical to celebrate World Mental Health Day, there were some highs and there were some lows. And there was one thing that happened that on World Mental Health Day that kind of shook me to my core. So I have a little bit of a story time. Are you ready?
I just want to say, Kendall called me after this happened, and I am not exaggerating. My eyes started to well up because I just put myself in your shoes and the defeated feeling I would have had. And like the sadness at my core, I just started crying when you were telling me this, because I'm just going to say this. There is a special place in hell for women who don't support other women, and especially who try to tear them down. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead and let you walk through what happened at your Lululemon World Mental Health event this week, because it made me so sad.
Yeah. So let me just explain. So there was two portions to it. We had a media day on the 9th, and it was this awesome workout. Dude, it was so sick. They built a slide. You would have been obsessed. They built a slide in the store.
It looked so fun.
It was so fun. They had a seesaw that about yeeted me into the careening corner because I'm a nugget, as you know. And I was like, oh man, this is how Cirque du Soleil, like this is how they do stuff. I would be a little pinball if I was ever in that show. So it was a beautiful activation. And what was cool was this workout was set up. I set it up almost like a field day. I didn't want it to be about working out heavy or hitting a PR or punishing your body or feeling that way. I wanted it to be about connecting. So this has nothing to do with Lululemon. They're amazing. Their events team is incredible. They are prime. They're the best. And I thought this was interesting. So Then we had a workout. That same workout setting was going to be on World Mental Health Day in the morning at 9 a.m. And there were only 30 tickets. So it was a closed event. Unfortunately, it was closed because I've had some crazy people in the past and that stalker issue that happened 2 years ago, all that. So because of that, we wanted to be extra cautious. Plus, we wanted this to be an environment where everybody nothing was overrun. Everybody had enough space to play all of this. So it was 30 people could be in this ticketed workout. It was totally free to come. And then there was a meet and greet for all the people that were a part of it after, which was great. I was so excited. I posted it on my stories. It was sold out like immediately. Like even before I posted it, like the second that it happened, it said sold out. And I'm like, wow, that's wild. That's really, really fast. But my classes would often sell out when I worked where I worked previously. So I was like, okay, that's kind of wild. So next morning, so excited after the success of the day before, how much fun everybody had, how cool it was. And we get there. There were two sweet girls waiting outside the Lululemon store. It wasn't open yet on Fifth Ave. Poor things. It was cold. It's cold in New York now. So they were able to get in. And some girl across from them said, oh, I have 3 tickets. And the people at the event were like, how is it possible that you have 3 tickets? You can only get 1 ticket per email. So that was kind of wild. But regardless, I'm happy these 2 young girls could get in. They're in their early 20s. Amazing. One girl went through something really terrible in her family. Terrible news. So this was great. So there were a couple people there that had taken my classes. Then we're waiting for people to come in and more people to come. Literally nobody's showing up. No one. Not a soul. And I look at the team and they look at me and they're like, this doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, there are probably 10 to 20 other events in New York City for World Mental Health Day for these play dates. There's also 500 of them going on across the stores in North America. Like all of those events, people are there, all this stuff. It is not making sense. I'm like, can I see the guest list? So I look at the Eventbrite guest list. I don't know a single one of these names. I start Instagramming these names. They're not real accounts or they're just not real people. They don't follow me. They don't follow the brand. If they are, they don't even look like real people. It's just like a name and no photos. It's like a bot account, which was really, really weird. I look at the email addresses. The email addresses don't make sense. I was like, this is so strange. They were, you know how you can kind of tell it's like first name, last name, 13, something, something, 17, something, something, 18. And there's like a pattern there. And I'm like, this is really odd. So before we go further, one of 2 things happened. One, either there was a total glitch and there was some type of ghost accounts or something that flooded this event page and it was a problem on the back end from the software and the platform provider. I would be very shocked because then the panel later that evening, 13 of those same people that were supposed to come to my workout in the morning were also at the panel. They also didn't show up for the panel. So what it appears and what I think is more likely, because it just isn't making sense and we've discussed and we're going to get to the bottom of it, is that somebody took it upon themselves to make fake accounts, sell out the event, and then nobody would show up to try to sabotage what was going to be a beautiful workout about mental health. So I was floored. But we pivoted, and this is notes on how you never know, even when things go haywire, you never know who it's supposed to help, or that there's always like restoration and things like that. So thankfully, those 2 girls who were waiting outside patiently, they could get in. So we had a great time with them. And then a bunch of the people that were working the event, like the events people, all of that, they are like, oh, let's go. Let's work out. So a bunch of the Lululemon employees, a bunch of the people that spent hours upon hours setting this thing up, they joined and we all worked out together. So we did the same format. We had so much fun. We were hula hooping. We were relay racing. We were passing a hula hoop through people. We did the same passing note scene at the end. And what was beautiful was 2 or 3 of them came up to me after it with tears in their eyes. And they were like, I did not know how much I needed this. I didn't realize like how much I've been in my head. And this just, I feel so full. And like, I haven't played like this in years. Like, thank you. So what's beautiful about it was that it helped people. And that's the whole point. And that's why I'm so proud of this work and proud of my advocacy for mental health, because that's what I want to do. But there was definitely like a bit of a cloud over the morning because it is very likely that somebody took it upon them to try to sabotage something that I was very much looking forward to and very much promoting. And I have a feeling of who it could be. I can't say that yet. We're going to be digging and getting receipts. But let me tell you, if it's who I think it is, and have a good hunch, they are opening a can of hell. And I'm grateful because then I got receipts. So, yeah.
Kendall, I love you so much. And I'm watching you take this thing that really hurt you, and instead of going straight to what hurt you and talking through it, you are trying to be so positive and put so much wording and verbiage around all the other great things that happen and all this. And then you talked about the bad thing that happened to you just for 1 second, and then went right back into the positive and like how it's helping these other people and what they're doing. And that is kind of what we want to talk about today, which is setting boundaries and being able to stand up for yourself, which I have actually learned so much from you and our friendship. And you have made me stronger and better and more resilient when bad things happen to me, at standing up and like owning it and talking about it, and not like, I feel like you're really good at being okay with not being okay, because you're so vocal about it and quick to talk about it. But right now in this scenario, probably because it's so fresh and it just happened, and maybe because it's on the podcast and like you're wanting to keep the podcast positive.
I don't want to put the weight on somebody else for sure. But like, am I fucking pissed off? Yes.
Yeah. And you should be hurt. Kendall, this is the equivalent to like, okay, let's talk about your inner child and like protecting her. If you had a daughter right now who is 10 years old and impressionable, and you set up a birthday party for her, right? And for all of her classmates, and then some other girl, because we do feel pretty confident we know who this is and that it's a girl, and then some other girl goes around and tells everybody that the date changed so that nobody shows up. How would you feel watching your daughter walk into her birthday party that she's been so excited about for literally months, and then nobody is there?
Yeah.
Because that is actually what just happened.
Yeah, totally. And someone took it upon themselves. Very likely, again, it could be a glitch. I really don't think that's the case, because too many things are congruent in a very odd way. But yeah, someone took it upon themselves to sabotage an event that was about supporting global mental health and bringing people together to play, because we all need a break from the craziness that's going on and to honor our inner selves. There's a special spot in hell for somebody. Look, hate me as much as you want. I get it. I get that people, I can be cringe to people. I'm sure I'm triggering to people. I get it. That's fine. I can't control how people perceive me, but I do know my heart. I do know how much I fucking care. Like, I'm launched my NKO fund, which is my charity fund where we're raising money. Every portion of everything I create, from merch to the big thing that's coming out in the summer, to all of the speaking engagements I do, a portion will go towards this fund so we can allocate to boots on the ground operations and charities that are changing people's lives, from the underserved and underrepresented to youth mental health to veteran mental health, so that we can create actual impact. Because I'm ready to fucking stand on business, because that shit almost took me out. So for this big moment that I had been talking about, that I have these incredible partners in Lululemon, they're amazing and they're so positive and so on the top of their game. So for something to happen like this, like, it's never happened in the history of them either. It is fall, and it means it is football season. You know I love to cook, but just because it's game day season doesn't mean you have to cut out all the carb-heavy foods that you love. Hero Bread reinvented the bread and buns that make fall and game day delicious bites so great. Fluffy, delicious flavor and texture. And y'all get this, they have 0 net carbs, 0 grams of sugar, and fewer calories, plus my personal favorite, as you guys know, protein and fiber. In fact, they now have Hawaiian rolls. So what I love about Hero Bread is that they have all of the protein and all of the fiber. They're a new take on carbs without having to worry about any of those net carbs. It's all your favorites without any consequences or compromises. They're soft, they're fluffy, they're delicious with like a juicy hot dog if you're tailgating. They're great for a BLT. In fact, they also have mouthwatering limited edition bakes like the popular 2-gram net carb Hero Poisson, with your protein, with your fiber. I'm sorry, does it get any better? Like, talk about a game day breakfast sandwich. Let's freaking go. Keep the carbs out of tailgating without compromising flavor with Hero Bread. Get 10% off your order at hero.co and use code WHOLEHEART at checkout. That's WHOLEHEART at hero.co. Good taste is easy to spot, but it's harder to pin down. You know it when you see it, and in today's culture, there's no greater signifier of taste than the car that you drive. You want something sophisticated but not stodgy, daring yet classic, approachable but with an air of opulence. And that's where the Range Rover Evoque comes in. An elegant SUV where sophisticated design, advanced technology, and premium materials meet. Clean lines, sumptuous materials, and advanced technology come together in the Range Rover Evoque. It's sophisticated and charismatic. The Range Rover Evoque elevates every single drive. A modern, chiseled taillight graphic creates a sense of continuous motion and contributes to the signature aesthetic of the Evoque. A calm, minimalist cabin anchored by a center console featuring a tactile gear shifter. The Range Rover Evoque is art and craft in equal measure, and it showcases meticulous design and attention to detail. It truly is charisma in motion, and it's a vehicle that elevates every single journey, and it makes a statement wherever it goes. Build your Range Rover Evoque at LandRoverUSA.com.
I think we got to stop like giving excuses and, oh, it might just also be a glitch and stuff. Like, I think we just like, I think it's very obvious what happened and somebody is trying to cut you off at the knees. And I think that is very apropos for what we want to talk about today, which is setting boundaries. And there's so many different ways in which you can set a boundary in your life. It can be with just yourself, right? Like I'm setting a boundary that every time I start to look in the mirror and pick myself apart, I'm going to stop doing that. And I'm going to switch it around and I'm going to become my cheerleader. Or I'm just not going to let myself look in the mirror for that long to where I can start to pick myself apart. Or the boundary could be with a family member. Maybe you have a toxic mother or mother-in-law or sibling who is just destroying your confidence or your energy level. Every time you're around them, they're draining you. Or maybe kind of in this scenario, it's in the workplace and it's with somebody trying to sabotage you. Yep. Or it's with somebody hurting you or trying to make sure you don't succeed and grow in whatever position you're in. Yep. There's so many different forms of toxicity, which means there are so many different forms of boundaries that we have to set. And so that is the theme for what we wanted to talk about today. And I thought your story about what happened at your Lulu event was perfect. When I think about the episode we did last week, which was kind of me setting a boundary for what I want out of a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. I got so much feedback from people saying that they're kind of in that same situation where they're in a good relationship, but they think both of them deserve great. And they need to part ways in order for both of them to find great. Yeah. And that's also what inspired, before the Lulu event even happened, that's what inspired this topic for today. So, a story that I'll share really quick that happened to me in the workplace where I failed to set a boundary. And to this day, I still think about these scenarios and I regret it. But when I was at Goldman, I was very, very, very young for the position I was in. I was 24 years old and I was already an executive. And most of the people doing my role were in their, late 30s to mid 50s, I would say. And also most were male. And so I was going into offices meeting with financial advisors and they were used to seeing, a 45-year-old male in a suit walk in and present a
beautiful Galey.
Yeah, like present strategies to them. And I was
24-year-old blonde. Yeah.
Yeah, like 24 years old with my bleach blonde hair and because I was still doing sun in at that point, and like blue eyeliner. And I had this I was just owning that I did not look like everybody else, and I kind of leaned into it. Good. But I was very professional. I never once wore my hair down. I always wore my hair up. I never wore a low cut anything. I never wore a skirt or a dress, not to a single meeting for 13 years. I was just very buttoned up and professional. So I went on to one of my first meetings and it was an office in Boca. And I walked in and I sat down with the financial advisor because I'm there to sell Goldman Sachs investment vehicles and give, economic outlooks. So I'm sitting down with him and he goes, "Hey, so you're my new wholesaler." And I was like, "Yes, it's so nice to meet you. This is actually my very first meeting on the job." And he was like, "Oh, wow. Well, I looked you up before you came in here and I saw that you were a runner at University of Florida. So you ran track. And I was like, I did. I was like, did you go to UF? He goes, no, I didn't go to UF. But, you know, people that run, especially collegiate runners, they have really good endurance. So they're really good in bed.
No, he did not.
And Kendall, when I tell you, it's actually kind of happening to me right now. Like,
you're getting the chills.
My
you're getting like a
whole
flashback.
body froze up. And I started shaking. And I didn't know what to say, because on one hand, I'm representing my firm and I want to do a good job and I want to close sales and I want to be professional. And on the other hand, I need this guy to like me so that he'll like not fire me from that office and I can still go in and meet with everybody and make money.
So you're trying to prove yourself at this point.
I'm trying so hard to prove myself, but I also am extremely uncomfortable, and I don't really like, I'm not overtly sexual with anybody in any way. Like, I'd only had one boyfriend at that point, only slept with one person. Like, I was just very private with that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's uncomfortable anyway for people to be like.
Totally. But I started shaking and I said, oh, I hadn't heard that. And he's like, yeah, so that means you're really good in bed. And I was like, I don't really know how to talk about this. I'm sorry, but I'd love to show you our international strategy and why we like international equities right now. And I just like pivoted. And then he was like, that's a great meeting. And I was like, yeah. And like, I remember leaving there thinking, oh my gosh, is this what my new job is going to be like? And then the next week, I went on another meeting down in Miami, like Coral Gables area. And I thought that it was because I'm kind of whining and dining these guys because I want to get them to give me millions of dollars for my funds.
Yeah, that's your job.
I'm fundraising. And so I pull up to the office and I call him and he's like, hey, we were going to walk to lunch, but instead, can you just drive? And I was like, sure, no problem. I'll just be right outside in the parking lot. So he walks down, he gets in my car, and I'm new to South Florida. Like, I moved here for my job, so I don't know where I'm going. And I'm like, just let me, you guide the way. And he's like, okay, go right here, go left here. And suddenly it stops looking commercial and it starts looking residential.
No.
And we are legit in a neighborhood at this point. And I am starting to go, wait, what's going on here? And I go, is there a restaurant? Like, is this a shortcut through to a restaurant or something? And he looks at me. By the way, this man, I'm not kidding. He is at least 300 pounds, very, very, very large man that is extremely overweight for his frame. And he is sitting in my passenger seat in my car with like the windows closed. And I'm starting to realize I have put myself in an uncomfortable situation because I'm now alone in a car with a very large man and I'm in a residential environment. And I'm like, I was like, is there a restaurant like coming up here or something? Cause this doesn't look right. And he goes, oh no, I'm going to take you to my house and I'm going to make you lunch and it's going to be so good. You're going to want me for dessert.
No. Okay. Oh, hold on. Whoa. Number one, what a damn line. Absolutely not. As a grown woman now, I'm like, sir, stop. Two, that is so what did you do? That's so inappropriate. I know you're probably scared at this point, right? But like, did you feel like you could report that?
So what I ended up doing is after I dropped him, like we had the lunch, I paid for it. Then as we do on our corporate card, again, like I feel like I'm supposed to be the one whining and dining. So I'm still trying to play that role. So then I bring him back to his office. And afterwards, I realized two things. One, I'm never going to meet with him ever again because I felt so physically unsafe being alone in a car with him saying that. But then number two, I realized that I'm going to tell my internal partner and my scheduler who sets all my meetings up, I'm going to tell everybody that is working for me that I will never drive a client to lunch unless I already have a good relationship with them and I feel safe with them. So anytime you set up an introductory meeting for me, that we need to meet at the location or we can meet at the office and walk to the restaurant together, but I will never be driving somebody ever. And I laid down that law so fast and I never did it again. And I never put myself in that situation again. And what did I learn? I learned that that sometimes you don't even know what boundary to set until somebody has crossed it. But then once they cross it, it's on you to
enforce
lay the hammer down.
Yeah, I think to the point on boundaries, though, I think what you're speaking to and what you're pulling up is very important. Like, you don't necessarily know your boundaries until somebody crosses it. And what's very important is you have a choice at that stage is how are you going to respond to that? And response also means continued action of upholding what that boundary is. It is very difficult to know what you need until you kind of know who you are. So I think even before we start to set boundaries, you have to know what your limitations are. You have to know what you stand for and what you don't. I know in corporate environments, not too long ago, there were quite a few times where there were expectations or just even workload expectations or even availability expectations. Like, I need you to drop everything to do this because something else went haywire. And it's like, absolutely not. Like, this is my PTO. This is my time off. This is my away message. As I stated in here, if you need something, here's where you call. If it's an emergency, contact me here. You know, it can be these big boundaries, but I think it's the smaller boundaries that actually are very, very important to enforce. Because if you set small boundaries that are actionable, people will take advantage of you for the bigger things because they know that they can. So being very discerning about where you allow your energy and your presence to be and how you allow your energy to be affected by those around you is absolutely vital. So with that, obviously, like, you've established those boundaries in the workplace and you held that really well, which I think is why you had so much success, especially in finance, because you were able to do that. But where do those boundaries come into play when it comes to, you know, you could do that in the workplace and then now really reinforcing that in relationships and friendships and other things? Like, how is that going now?
Well, and I do just want to say really quick, because that was in the workplace, what I didn't do that I should have done is report it to my boss at Goldman and management. The reason I was so scared to is because here I was, this new girl who was a decade plus younger than everyone else they interviewed for my job. And I didn't want to have 2 marks on my record with HR of having incidents in my first week of work. And later on, you know, I realized I should have and that Goldman would have protected me. But, you know, you live and you learn. And so now to your question, you know, how am I putting this into relationships? I feel like what I just did last week in our episode talking about, you know, ending my relationship because I set a boundary for myself is me kind of learning from my lessons. And I feel like I'm still not good at setting boundaries because, Kendall, you had a great heart to heart with me a couple days ago because I would say a couple of my girlfriends, I feel like, recently took advantage of my kindness and what I was doing for them. And I still couldn't bring myself to tell them, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable. This makes me sad. This breaks my heart. My friend Maria was with me in the car when I had one of the phone calls where I felt like I was completely taken advantage of. And she said, Galey, the way I watched the light just fall out of your eyes. She's like, I literally heard this person and the way they were talking to you on the phone, and I literally watched the light leave your eyes because it sucked the soul out of you. And you were still just so nice and you just took it. And then when I told you, Kendall, you were ready to raise hell.
I did.
And then you were like, Galey, you need to set boundaries. And I was like, wow, I'm not good. I'm not good at this.
Sorry, I got fiery with you. I wanted to protect you from it because I think what bothered me so much about that experience, right, is like, it's so much easier for me to say, it's easier for us to give advice to somebody else rather than doing it ourselves. Like, same thing. Like, even earlier in the conversation, like, I have every right to be super pissed off and mad, but there's a part of me that's like, I don't know for a fact, or I, want to be careful or cautious, or why am I trying to protect someone else's poor behavior when I was treated in a way or was disrespected or sabotaged in a way? Same thing with you. Someone was taking advantage of, and with intent. Like, if it were first degree murder or second degree murder, it was planned. It was fucking meditated. Guys, sorry, I'm dropping F-bombs left, right, and Sunday today because I'm fiery. And it was a premeditated decision for them to take advantage of you and your platform and what you do and how you do it and how kind you are. And I think what's really important about that is I'm getting to a point now where even if I'm going to be a bitch, and even if you can turn it around and say like, damn, she was so mean, this, sure, you can warp it any way you want it. But if I have to be a bitch to defend myself, my values, the people that I love, the hard work that myself and my team do on things, then so be it. Spell it with a capital B then. I will be that bitch.
I like that.
And in fact, this reminds me, I just had this aha moment. Okay, there was a time at work where I was really working on boundaries. And this was about a year ago. I think it was a year ago. And I remember I played the song Bitch in class, Meredith Brooks.
I love that song.
I'm a bitch. I'm a lover.
So good.
So good. It's so good. God bless like late 90s. Anyway, so I was playing Bitch and I had this aha moment while I was writing and I was like, bitch, it's an acronym. It's a freaking acronym. And bitch stands for boundaries I thoughtfully and confidently hold.
I like it.
Boundaries I thoughtfully and confidently hold. And if you have a problem with me being a damn bitch, kiss my butt and enjoy the view. Because I'm going to be walking and climbing higher than you because all your trifling ass behavior is beneath the crap I'm trying to do in this world. So same thing for you. They can stare at your ass and be like, wow, go Galey. We will never reach that.
And as you're saying that acronym, all I'm thinking is the way you just said that, you just spelled boss for a man.
Yes.
Right? It's like if a man is a boss, the equivalent to that is a woman who's a bitch. So why is bitch so negatively associated, right?
I think there's an idea that women, the power of feminine and the power of women is that we have this ability to be empathic and nurturers and all that, which is absolutely fantastic. I love to be in my deep feminine in my relationship. With Alex, I'm like, I don't want to think. I will cook for you and take care of you and like little, like fun little endorphins in my head when we're together. At work, I am in my masculine. I am going to be direct and clear and forceful and thoughtful, respectful, but you will not, I don't mince words with people. Like we have a goal, we have an action, we are conquering, we're going after it. So what's very interesting is I think because for women being able to be both, that duality is very uncomfortable because just of how much power women have when we do that. So I think we're taught to compete with each other so that we don't ever touch that power. Because then we're more palatable. We're easier to manipulate when we don't understand how powerful we are. That's why boundaries are important, because you only hold a boundary when you know the value of what you're protecting, right? A boundary is a protection. Like you put a lock on your house. Why? Because you have valuables inside. You have people that you love. You have your dogs, your pets, you have your clothing, you have your hard work. My freaking moss wall. I'm proud of this. I don't want anyone ripping that off, right? Now, because of value, I have to hold a boundary. I have to hold a line. I got to get a security system outside. So if we do that with our possessions, if we do that with our people, why aren't we doing that for our own selves, for our own values, our own heart?
I'm obsessed with this analogy. Kendall, you just so perfectly created a visual that we should all be taking, which is that if you are locking your house, you are locking your car, you are protecting your valuables and you are setting a boundary to keep the bad people out. Why are we not doing that with our hearts, with our mind, with our time, with our efforts, with our energy? Lock that shit up. It is valuable.
Amen. And the other thing too, you're not just protecting it from the external challenges or from people on the outside, right? You're not keeping people out. You're also protecting people that are on the inside, which I think is easier when I think about setting boundaries. It's not just setting them for myself. It's setting them so that I can protect the people that I love and care about. Like I'm going to set a boundary with what people, like if someone asks me like, oh, how's Galey? What's going on in her life? I know that we have intimate, private, you and I conversations. Those people aren't going to find out about that. They can be great people, but you're in my house and we protect that. So because of that boundary, it's not only protecting myself, it's also protecting the people that I love and that I care about. Because you have to have some kind of a wall to keep what you need in and what you don't want out.
Okay, I feel this way and I want to know if you're the same. Do you feel like it is so much easier to set a boundary around people you care about than it is setting around yourself?
Abso-freaking-lutely. The way, I mean, you can even see it in my vocal change when we started talking about how you were disrespected and your value was not being respected, how much easier it is for me to light up. Like I will Joan of Arc anything. Give me something to fight for. Talk about an injustice. Talk about like,
as long as it's not you that you're having to fight.
As long as it's not me. And then when it's me, I start second guessing it.
I got so heated hearing you give so much praise and fluff around this mental health thing at the beginning of this pod.
Yeah.
When like this huge injustice happened to you, and I was like vehemently, like I was having a visceral reaction to it, and you're just like skipping right over it and like say one sentence, and then you go back to how like great mental health awareness is. And I'm like, girl, like this was awful, but it's because I can stand up for you and set a boundary for you and say, hey, this happened and this is not okay. I can do that for you, but it's so hard to do it for me, especially for me. It's really hard with friends, especially girlfriends. And it's really hard for me with clients. I am a pleaser and I just want to make people happy, and I want to avoid confrontation at all. I will cut off my own foot if it avoids confrontation.
Oh, no.
And so it's awful. And this is why I need a best friend. Like everybody needs a Kendall to like get in there and be like, girl, I'm sewing your foot back on and I'm cutting them off at the knees. You know,
you're that for me too. No, and that's just it. It's like that's why friendships and those relationships are so valuable, because when you start second guessing yourself, they act as mirrors, or they act as kind of like a wall that like sends your energy right back to you.
Yeah.
It says, absolutely not. We're not permeating that. I'm not letting you tolerate that, because you don't deserve that. And you're right. Like even in this course of this podcast, like the more that you're saying that, and thank you for pouring that confidence into me to be able to be like, yeah, what happened was super messed up. There's a part of me that is so used to, especially in like the last 5 years as my life has changed and I was a voice for an entity bigger than myself, that I like started losing myself and who I am in trying to uphold what they needed. Like my identity was becoming enmeshed with what the expectation of me was. And I realized I'm putting on another mask again when I've spent so much time trying to take the damn mask that I have off, talking about my mental health and myself. And I think I'm still navigating that new identity of like, no, I do have my voice. Nobody else controls my voice. I made sure that when I left, nobody was controlling my voice. But now there's a part of me that's afraid to use it a little bit, because if I use it, is someone going to retaliate against me? Is somebody going to sabotage me? And clearly, even when I'm not saying everything, who knows, but someone or something is still trying. So at this point, you know what? F with me. Go. Be my guest, because what's being built and what's coming next and how hard I'm working for the next things are going to be so of my own voice that it's on me if it goes right or wrong. I just don't want to be fucked with anymore. I'm sick of it.
Kendall, if you use your voice to set a boundary, and this is something I learned the hard way, but I don't know how truer to say this, but if you use your voice to set a boundary and it angers the person who you're setting that boundary with, that's because they just realized you're not as easy to take advantage of or manipulate as they thought. And it's going to piss them off. So if you set a boundary and somebody's like, oh, I respect that. Like the weekends are for family, no texting you on weekends. Or, oh, like Kendall, you have a boundary recently where you don't do any meetings. I mean, you'll still talk to me, but you don't do any meetings on Mondays, right? Like Mondays are for Kendall to get prepared for the week and do all her things. Like you set that boundary. And if somebody gets angered by that, that's because they were trying to take advantage of your time and have you there any day to do a meeting with them or for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was proud of you when I heard that. I wasn't like angered or taking it personally, because I'm not trying to manipulate you, you know?
No, because I want
you healthy.
When you set a boundary. Yes, when you set a boundary too, and when you say, hey, because what it is saying, this is what I need and this is what I don't need. And again, it takes self-reflection and it takes over-indexing to recognize that you need to set a boundary. And I think that's what we often forget, right? Like when you see people who are so, like I've met all these really cool entrepreneurs lately who are so incredible and doing really cool things with their time and how they're building these businesses. And I'm like, how did they do that? And a lot of the questions that I ask them, I'm like, how have you balanced all this? They're like, oh, I say no often, but I had to say no because I was screwing up my relationship with my husband. I was not present for my kids, or I was not taking care of my body because I was so focused on being yes to everybody else. I was neglecting myself and what those core responsibilities were. And so I think, everybody listening to this, when we're talking about boundaries, understand the only way you find out you need one is by not having them and being taken advantage of. There's no good way to know you need a boundary until someone takes advantage of it and you're like, oh, well, that was wrong.
Yep. And I don't know what you learned in grammar school, but let me reteach you here real quick. No is a complete sentence.
Yes.
It's not, no, I'm so sorry. I have this and this and this. And if I don't do this, then it happened yesterday. Like somebody asked me to come help with something and I cannot go. I had to film this podcast today, so I couldn't go and help with the hurricane relief that I was volunteering for and wanted to help with. But I have this obligation. I have to do it. And instead of me just being like, nope, sorry, can't make it, I was like, no, I'm so sorry. I have to film this podcast and we can't move the time, because if we move the time, then Casey doesn't have enough time to edit it. And I went on this diatribe of trying to justify me just saying, no, sorry, I can't. Because I felt so guilty. So I need to set up a boundary with myself of being okay with just saying no. Like, nope, sorry.
Yes. I love that we're getting to this point. The most important boundaries I think that we set are the ones with ourselves. For me, a big boundary has been navigating this transition between what I was doing and what I'm building, is not allowing fear or doubt or even the angst of like what could be to be a thought that I'm going to entertain in my head. Like, I have to set a boundary. I have to talk to me. And my boundary is, hey, we're not going there. My boundary is, your brain today, Kendall, we're not thinking this way, or we're not going to allow something like this to upset us to nth degree. We're going to roll with this. And of course, there's better days than some, but it is true. I think the most important boundaries are the ones that you communicate and set for your internal self, right?
And when you set that boundary for yourself, you're also teaching everybody around you, especially your significant other, how to treat you.
Yeah.
Because how you treat yourself is literally letting them know what you will and won't accept. So if I look in the mirror in front of my partner and I like pick myself apart, guess what? I just open the door for him to also pick my body apart and say shitty things to me. And if I set a boundary with like a girlfriend, and the way that she's taking advantage of my time, and my boyfriend, my partner sees that, he's going to know he can't take advantage of my time either.
Yes.
Because that's the boundary that I set. So remember, to Kendall's point, the most important person you set a boundary with is yourself. But remember, there is a butterfly effect, a ripple effect that comes from that will then teach everyone around you, your employer, your significant other. The only person I can't set a boundary with are my dogs, because they just rule my life. But everybody else is learning from the boundaries that I set, and they're teaching me that.
Yes.
They're doing that back to me.
I just want like air horns and like claps and applause and like, oh, that's 100% on it.
If you guys have ever seen my Instagram or maybe my show, you'll know that one of my best friends is this guy named PJ. PJ sent me a text 2 days ago, I kid you not, and he said, hey, do you have another code for Nutrafol? And I said, oh, I didn't know you got it. He goes, I got it a month ago, and I kid you not, I went to my barber, and without me saying anything, he asked if I was doing anything different when he went to cut my hair. Now, if that is not a testimonial, I don't know what is. Real talk, I've been on it for about 1.5 years, and it actually took me about 4 months before I saw results and about 6 months before I saw full results. But I'm telling you, this is in my daily routine, and I never miss a day. I take my 4 pills every single morning. It has decreased my shedding. My hair just looks and feels shinier and healthier. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. Get results you can really run your fingers through. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code wholeheartedly. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code wholeheartedly. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Hey guys, whether you love true crime or comedies, celebrity interviews, news, or even motivational speakers, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue, right? And guess what? Now you can call the shots on your auto insurance too. Enter the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. The Name Your Price tool puts you in charge of your auto insurance by working just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance. Then they'll show you a variety of coverages that fit within your budget, giving you options. Now that's something you'll want to press play on. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to choose the best option for you fast. It's just one of many ways you can save with Progressive Insurance. Quote today at Progressive.com to try the Name Your Price tool for yourself and join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive, just like me. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Okay, I know we have on, I love that we call it WIG.
Yeah, so internally, Kendall and I call the pod Instagram WIG because it's our wholeheartedly Instagram, and it was so hard to say wholeheartedly Instagram.
WIG.
So it was just a WIG. So we go to the WIG. You guys know we post questions about the topic we want to cover each week. You guys are just so wonderful in your responses. And we're thinking about, let us know, actually, send us DMs at Wholeheartedly Pod on Instagram. Send us DMs and let us know. We're thinking about maybe having you guys on with us live where you can sit in the green room and then we bring you in and you ask your question and we give you our answer, or we do a call-in where we record your voice and then we play it and we talk through it. So we might be able to get even more intimate with you guys in that way. But we got some great answers to our question, which was, what boundaries are you setting or are you currently trying to set? Like what have you done in the space of boundaries? There's so many I want to read.
This could be like a 12-part series on boundaries and answering these questions. I love it.
I know. So this one struck me to my core because, Kendall, this is literally exactly what we were talking about a few days ago with the friends that crossed my boundaries because I didn't set them, and I still haven't done anything about it. But she wrote, the boundary of understanding what I deserve and want versus what others can give me. And to me, what I'm realizing is that I expect so much from other people. I expect kindness. I expect honesty. I expect them to go above and beyond for me only because I know that's what I'm going to give them. I'm going to give you kindness and honesty, and I'm going to kill myself to try and make you happy. But it's not necessarily fair for me to expect that level of friendship back from somebody else just because I'm giving it. And so I need to start setting a boundary with my expectations of other people, so that I don't get let down over and over, because I feel like the friend I am to some of my friends, they are not that back to me. And I realized that the hard way very recently. It's not really on them for not being that level of friend. It's on me for expecting that from them, I feel like.
Yes. And I've totally been there. I remember my mom and I having a conversation about that because she's like, honey, I think you expect the way that you show up from other people, and you can't expect you and other people. Not to say like, oh, you're great in any way. I think part of my over-indexing to support people is, a fawning response or a people-pleasing response that made me feel safer and made me feel more valuable to people. If I was nice to them, they're going to be nice back to me. I'll tell you something. Like, I have to be completely transparent. I've done like a bunch of events lately, and now that I'm kind of more out of the fold and not teaching as much, I can go to like influencer events and things. Yeah. I'm over it. Like, I can't, it's so cringy. I'm over like the needing validation. I'm sick and tired of people like acting as if they're really nice and lovely. And then you reach out and you're like, hey, like, here's some recommendations. I know you're going to be in town, whatever. And it's crickets, but then they can act on social media like they care because it looks good because everyone's got a blue check mark. But then in person, they're complete a-holes. Like, I think what's so important is the second that I see that behavior or it's not reciprocated back, I'm like, okay, bet. And I just like mute you. I don't follow, like, I'm just done. I'm out. And I think that's what's good is like you kind of give a bid, right? Like, I don't care. I'm an abundant person. I will always compliment. I'll always be nice. I'll reach out. But after the second or third time reaching out in whether DM or text or whatever, if they're not being responsive or reciprocal, I'm like, okay, we're done. That's fine.
They're not giving you the energy that you're willing to give them, and they're out. And I will say, to your point about influencer friends, like over the last 4 years, I've done a lot of celebrity homes and interacted with celebrities. Either, I'm going on a podcast in LA and they're sitting in the room before I go in, or on the Today Show and I meet them in the green room in the back. And I will say, it makes me so sad when somebody in real life is not how they present on social media, because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how do so many people believe that you are so nice and so great, and they write all these things and they love you and they adore you? They don't know you.
They don't know you.
But they think they do because you do such a good job of putting on a show. And then there's other people, like I did Elle Macpherson's house, the nicest, kindest, sweetest soul. And to this day, we texted all day, like 2 days ago, and she cares and she's so sweet. And I'm just like, like, you have no idea how somebody really is going to be in real life. And so I'm with you on, like, if you're going to give me the energy I want to give you, I will totally give it back. But if I'm not feeling that, I'm not setting myself up to be heart crushed because you don't meet some unfair expectation I set of you without actually knowing you. So that is something I've really learned. So another one that I really, really like, she wrote, not responding or calling back right away if I'm in the middle of quality time with somebody else.
Oh, amen. I think that's wonderful. Okay, I have to make a comment on this. You guys, texting, which I'm a terrible texter, really can attest.
She is horrible, you guys.
I'm terrible, but I'm also much better with you than with most other people. So for the record,
man. I feel bad for everybody else.
Yeah, that's why you know to call me. You text me and you're like, hey, and then you're like, hey, it's really important. This why can you call me? I will call you.
Yeah, you're good.
Like, I will drop everything to call. But because I know if there's a moment like that. But when it comes to, guys, text messages are alerts. They're like what emails started as. They're not the main pathway of communication. Stop having full fucking relationships on text message. It's literally you interpreting someone else's words from your own head. That is not a real relationship. A real relationship that's going to give you some type of value, that's going to show you the truth of who people are. That's why a lot of celebrity or influencer people can pull the wool over people's eyes and pretend to be something else, because it's not channel rich. It's not human to human. It's contained and it's edited and it can be manipulated. And I'm not saying everybody that's a celebrity or an influencer is bad. There's a lot of great ones out there. But when it comes to other people's asking or texting you, if you're present with somebody else, turn your phone over, put it on DND, and then set 5 minutes aside after you're done or when you get back to your car and the doors are locked, because we need to be smart and safe. Okay. No sitting in your car texting with unlocked doors, just little PSA. But then you go back and you communicate back to those people. I would say when you're texting, never expect an immediate response. That's not the way to communicate. If you want an immediate response, pick up the damn phone and call somebody, because then you know there's a level of importance, or leave a voice note so someone knows what's going on. I think the expectation that when we need something from somebody else, we can just ping them and expect a response is not a healthy expectation. And it's kind of had the byproduct of all of us getting overwhelmed by all these notification and texts, because we can never serve everybody all at once in the same way.
That's why I still delete every single text message after I've responded to it, because of the anxiety I get just having all of them there built up. But the problem with that is that I respond immediately. Like, I get back to people so quickly, text and email. Part of it is me wanting to show them that they are important and that I care and that I'm here for them in whatever capacity. The other part of it is my CDO.
Yeah.
I do not like feeling like I have anything left that I need to do, because I need every box checked, every text sent, every email responded to, so that I can go to sleep at night. So it kind of puts me in this bucket where I do respond immediately. But I will say, if I'm spending one-on-one time with somebody, I won't even have my phone face down on the table. It will be in my bag on silent.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think even if you're at dinner and you have the phone sitting out and it's upside down, you're still reminding them that there's something there that is as important to you, because it's at the table with you guys in your conversation, you know?
Yeah, that's super valid. I think what's interesting, what you just said though, about feeling the need to respond to show somebody that you care. I think it's well intended, but I also think that gives those people more power over your existence than your power over your existence. Do you know what I mean?
1000%, yes.
Because it's like you're beholden to their timeline rather than having that boundary for whatever you're presently doing is what needs presence. And I think, I'm saying this as somebody who also struggles with this. Obviously, there's 18 different tracks going on in my brain at any point in time. However, because of ADHD, whenever I'm hyper-focused on something and fixated, I get into a flow state where I think everything gets pushed aside anyway. And that is the most beautiful, creative, expressive feeling. Like, I know I've seen you do this when we were on an install or a dam. When we went into Crate and Barrel or Pottery Barn or I don't know, any of the 5 stores we did in 40 minutes, watching you in flow state, just picking and choosing every little design element that we needed for the room was so incredible. And I was like, wow, imagine if we could capitalize off of that or be in that flow state more of our lives. Our mental health would probably be 10 times better because we'd be honestly, authentically expressing ourselves in that flow state. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Not like distracted by 18 people saying, did you open this email? Did you see this? Did you see that? So I think, yeah, send a text, but don't expect an immediate response. Like, give people the grace that they have lives. People are doing things.
That is so true about flow state, and that like that's where we're our happiest, we're our most productive, and honestly nothing can touch us or our mental health in that moment because we're in our own flow, and we're having less and less of that because we have all of these distractions and all of these people needing your energy in so many different directions. It's almost like in those movies, do you know when like the whole world freezes but the main character can keep moving?
Yeah.
I wish.
The Matrix.
Yes.
The
I'm
Matrix.
totally picturing like Keanu, who my mom calls Canoe. So that's how she pronounces his name.
My dad calls him Canoe.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I've always
why
been
do
like,
you
Mom,
guys
that is
call
not
him
his name. But anyways, I wish I could wake up in a day and be like, freeze frame. And the whole world freezes, which means nobody texts me. Time doesn't move. Nobody's emailing me. So I'm caught up on everything. And then I can just create content and I can build a fireplace and I can decorate a room and I can do all of these things. And then like, okay, I got me in, I got my me time in, unfreeze. And then at like flow, like the rest of the world keeps happening. But that's impossible. But if we can learn how to do that and channel that for ourselves, almost imagine like I'm just freezing the whole world and I'm just going to go into my space and do my thing. It could be you doing a workout, right? Like you say, I'm going into the gym. I'm turning my phone off. I'm freezing the whole world and I'm taking my power for a little while and like re-energizing, you know?
Galey, you know fall is coming up and you know that I am so ready to shop and I need brands on brands on brands. So do you know where I go?
Girl, say less. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's ROSS, Ross. I am obsessed with this place. I go through so many clothes and boots and shoes on my installs and I don't want to be paying a fortune for them, but also I really want to look stylish in my videos. And Ross has the latest fall finds at 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices.
You know, it is also sweater and boot season. And I don't know if you heard this. Not only are Western boots back, which I think never left, but so are the 2000s slouch boot.
I fully co-sign you on the boot game. I am such a boot girly. And I also love their denim selections. They have so many. So if you guys are looking to shop for less, go to Ross. You can thank me later.
Say yes to brands on brands on brands on brands at Ross. And you just might run into Galey and I because we say yes for less.
Attention parents, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta has now opened the new Arthur M. Blank Hospital at 2220 North Druid Hills Road at I-85. The Eggleston Emergency Department is closed. The new state-of-the-art Arthur M. Blank Hospital is open to provide emergency services for your child. Remember, Eggleston Emergency Department is now closed. Bring your children to Arthur M. Blank Hospital for emergency care. Stay informed at choa.org.
Well, that's, I think, a really healthy tool is to be able to build into your schedule, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 20 minutes. A lot of people are like, meditation. Well, for me, meditation has to be physical. There's so much frenetic energy in my body. I need to express it.
I feel that. It's a lot.
Clearly, look at my hands right now. I am a human. What is the little air people outside of car dealerships?
Oh yeah, those
the noodle things.
Yeah, the noodles. They're just like puffed up I don't know. They're really, that is you though. You're just like noodling around.
I'm just like noodling. Like I have so much energy. So being able to focus all of that in one place, I think that's why like working out is so powerful. When you're just in that one movement or in that one moment, you have music, maybe you don't, and you're just getting after it. Maybe like for you, it's running. It's that rhythm. It's that cadence where you can be present.
I was just thinking for you, I think it's cooking. I think cooking for you is one of those things too. Yeah.
Yep. It's so present. Okay. Woo. There's some really good ones. I would love to talk on this.
Is it the toxic person one?
I mean, there's a lot of toxic going on. I would say, yeah, it was that a lot of people are talking about setting a boundary with family or like mother-in-law. There's a lot of mother-in-law narcissism.
A lot. And mom.
And mom. First thing. Now, I will say, you know, I have a family member that I don't have a deep relationship with, unfortunately, and boundaries have been set, and that's a story for another day. But it's very important to understand two things. One, the term narcissism, we throw it around a lot. It's become very like all of us are armchair therapists. Everybody has a narcissistic tendency. So I'm just going to explain. We all have little pockets of it as human beings. When it comes to, I'm noticing this a lot with women from a previous generation who I think their identity shifts a lot once their kids are out of the home, once they're like, what do I do with my life now? And I think there's a lot of women out there who feel the need to inundate their children's lives when they're adults and feel as if when particularly a son gets married, they're losing their baby to this woman. And then what happens? Female on female competition. And it's so interesting because I've met so many people and heard so many questions about my mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, my mother-in-law. And it's this trope that we even see in like film and TV, right? Like the narcissistic mother-in-law who's rare. Number one, I will say this. If you need to set a boundary with somebody, set the boundary. But you also need the support of your spouse to do so if it's their own family. And this is where it can get very diabolical because I think there's a lot of men out there who are afraid to upset their mothers, but simultaneously not really defending their wives.
So there's two boundaries. Then you're setting the boundary with the mother-in-law and you're setting the boundary with your spouse, right?
Yes.
And I understand where this competition comes from because I think it's almost like an ownership feeling, right? If you birth somebody and raise them their entire life, you feel a sense of ownership over their well-being, right? Because but also if you marry somebody and that is who you are giving children to and falling asleep next to every night and feeding every night at dinner, guess what? You're going to feel a sense of ownership over their well-being and how they're doing too. And now you have two people trying to care and take care of the well-being of one person. And then that one person, now the pressure is on him of who does he give like the main priority to, right? Is it the mother or is it the wife? And I think
I feel very strongly on it should be the wife.
Yeah, it should be.
Listen, you are choosing that person. You are building a life with them. You can still honor your parent and honor your mother without negating the relationship with your wife. Your wife is your spouse. That is your partner for the rest of your days, especially if you are creating a family and children. That becomes your new family. That becomes the main priority. I think it should be. I don't think making that your main priority is disrespectful to your mother at all. And if it is, if that's the dynamic from the mother-in-law or from the mother, that's very unhealthy. Because I think the whole point and the beautiful thing about raising children, and this is as somebody who hasn't raised children, so by all means come after me. People are gonna be like, you don't have kids yet. But I have a really wonderful mom who has expressed this a lot. And, you know, she had issues with her mother-in-law in a very similar way. So I've seen this narrative play out and the difficulties of what it did to my dad, who had to navigate supporting and being polite to his mom, but saying no. And my dad said, no, this is my family. This is my wife. These are my kids. They are my priority.
I think this is going to be a forever challenge. And especially once you have children, you want your children, I would assume, to have a good relationship with your grandparents. You want them to feel that sense of generational family and that it's deeper than just your nuclear family under one household, and that there's just a sense of community. And so it's important to have that relationship. Also, grandparents do a great job of helping raise the kid and you're not having to get, hired help and things like that. So it benefits everybody to stay close communally as a family. But when you have that dynamic of competition between like the two matriarchs, I think my best advice, having not gone through it personally myself, but as an outsider looking in, my best advice is pick and choose your battles, right? There's some hills you die on with your husband and with your mother-in-law where you just this boundary has been set and you cannot cross it. And then there's others where in your head you just wave the white flag and you're like, that was really obnoxious and annoying, but I need to keep this relationship kosher for now. And I want my child to still be able to go to play dates at grandma's house. So I'm just going to swallow it.
I think we can give grace. There's certain situations that give grace and there's certain situations not to. I think if anything too, I love to meet the problem head on. And I think women we're very strong and we're also very empathic and great communicators when we choose to be. So in that situation, if it's possible, I would encourage somebody to talk to their mother-in-law and say, listen, I love your son more than life, or I love your daughter more than life. Who knows the situation? But we want the same thing, is their well-being. He and I have a union and have a family, and we so deeply want you to be a part of this union and this family, but it has to be healthy for all parties here. And it has to be that we both understand we want what's best for him or for her. And this is how we need to move with that. So how can we get there together?
Yeah, find a commonality to like that, that they also want the best for. I mean, sometimes you're screwed and your mother-in-law will like hate you in spite of it helping her son, some are just bad.
Yeah. And then in that case, talk to your spouse and be like, hey, we need to limit the family time with that one. Or maybe let's talk about going to family therapy. That's always a great option. If they're open and willing, that can be really helpful to have a third party. But there are certain things, like certain boundaries, that are no bueno.
If somebody is illogical and irrational, no matter how much logic, how much reason you bring to the table, they're never going to get it. And so now you are just cutting off your nose to spite your face every time you're trying to talk logic into them, because they're never going to absorb it. But I feel like this is tired and true, and it's been there a long time. But the more we talk about it, hopefully the more people are encouraged to stand up for their boundaries and set them and put that foot down where it makes sense.
Yeah. And you can say no and it doesn't work and it's okay. No does not make you a bad person. No simply means that you're protecting what's valuable.
And no is a complete sentence, as we learned in Wholeheartedly Grammar School earlier this episode.
Workbook.
So wait, Kendall, we need a title, a song title for this episode.
I feel very firmly about Meredith Brooks' Bitch.
Oh, yes. Obviously. Why did I miss that?
Yes. Bitch. I'm a lover. I'm a child.
Okay.
I'm a lover.
I'm going to
playing that
by saying an angel dies, like falling out of the sky somewhere.
No,
it's really bad. It's atrocious. But okay, a bitch is the name of this episode. And Kendall, what are you working on this week?
I am working on allowing myself to be pissed off in situations where people have authentically tried to F with me. But also I will say I'm lit the hell up. I like being the underdog. What little people realize is I've been underestimated in so many situations of my life. And it's actually my favorite position to be in because I love shutting people the fuck up and getting after it. So if anything, I'm excited to convert this shit to alchemy and use it as fuel. And I'll probably go and unload on a bag at some point this next week too. So that'll be great. I'll punch it out and I'll pour it back into my business. So thank you.
Your muscles are going to get even stronger and look even better in your next campaign because of the way this fueled you into your workouts.
Nope.
And I love that what you're working on, you didn't specifically say this, but I feel like part of what you're working on this week is going into the database and figuring out who the F did this.
Oh, yeah.
Because justice will be served. You are a vigilante and you will get out there and you will make it happen. Okay.
I might play vigilante while I do it. Amen.
Yes. Yes. And then, okay, for me, what I'm working on is, I said it earlier, and this conversation actually has helped me so much today because it just reminded me that I need to stop putting expectations on how other people are going to treat me so that it doesn't let me down. And instead, I give the most that I'm comfortable giving, even if I expect nothing in return. And if they meet me there, then I give a little bit more. But I need to stop expecting that everybody's going to treat me and react to me and respond to me the way that I do to them. And I think I'll live in a happier world that way. So that's what I'm working on.
Well, the most beautiful thing is that when you don't give, you only give as much as you're willing to lose.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, whatever, I was a nice person, fine. Like, oh, I bought them this nice gift or whatever, and they're whatever. Well, I'm grateful I bought it. I'm happy they like it. All good, right? Move it and keep it rolling. But it's really fun too, because then when you don't expect anything and somebody really surpasses that, you're like, oh my God, they were amazing. And it's so reinforcing. So it does actually help, not to say like the boundaries in hell, but the boundaries definitely in purgatory, like the level, like
Yeah.
you can, if they rise above that purgatory level, you're like, wow, you're an angel. And if they don't, you're like, well, that tracks. That's fine.
I think that's why I love surprising people, because I love being like, oh, by the way, I'm not charging you for this. Or, oh, by the way, I also did this extra bedroom. Oh, by the way, I love surprising people because I think I want to be surprised to the upside too.
Yeah.
I want to be surprised by the goodness that somebody was withholding because they wanted to give it to me. So I want to give that to other people and like restore faith in humanity that people are great.
There are good
You
people.
don't ask them to be. They're still great. Like, that's what I want. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Set the boundary lower and you'll really be able to see it.
Okay. Well, I'm still sitting in a shirt that is backwards. Yeah, it looks like it's choking me. You'll see it in my video where I'm doing my outdoor fireplace. If you wonder why my shirt is really tight in the front top, it's because it's backwards in the whole video. So I'm going to go finish building this fireplace. And I know you've got a million things to do. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate all your responses to the wig, our Wholeheartedly Instagram at wholeheartedlypod, and also everything you do with your comments and your follows and your likes on all of our social media. Kendall's at Kendall Tool. I'm at Galey Alex, and we love you guys with our whole hearts.
We do. We really do. Thank you guys so much for joining. Set those boundaries this week. Lower your expectations of people. And if people F with you, well, find out, get receipts, and then plot your diabolical return.
Fuck around and find out. Bye. Bye.
Galey, fall is coming up, and you know that I am so ready to shop, and I need brands on brands on brands. So do you know where I go?
Girl, say less. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's ROSS, Ross. I am obsessed with this place. I go through so many clothes and boots and shoes on my installs, and I don't want to be paying a fortune for them, but also I really want to look stylish in my videos. And Ross has the latest fall finds at 20 to 60% off other retailers' prices.
It is also sweater and boot season, and I don't know if you heard this. Not only are Western boots back, which I think never left, but so are the 2000s slouch boot.
I fully co-sign you on the boot game. I am such a boot girly, and I also love their denim selections. They have so many. So if you guys are looking to shop for less, go to Ross. You can thank me later.
Say yes to brands on brands on brands on brands at Ross. And you just might run into Galey and I because we say yes for less.
Attention parents, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta has now opened the new Arthur M. Blank Hospital at 2220 North Druid Hills Road at I-85. The Eggleston Emergency Department is closed. The new state-of-the-art Arthur M. Blank Hospital is open to provide emergency services for your child. Remember, Eggleston Emergency Department is now closed. Bring your children to Arthur M. Blank Hospital for emergency care. Stay informed at choa.org.
Okay, want to know where to find brands on brands on brands this fall? At Ross. They've got big savings on the latest fall styles. Seriously, you'll find the brands you want at prices you'll love. At Ross. Yes, for less.
Cut the commute and up the convenience for your next dermatologist visit. Non-segmental vitiligo patients 12 and older can virtually discuss repigmentation with Opzelura ruxolitinib cream as soon as today. Get started on your pursuit for repigmentation with topical Opzelura. Visit Opzelura.com to connect with a derm to see if Opzelura is right for you. Provider availability may vary. For patients taking therapeutic biologics, other JAK inhibitors, or strong immunosuppressants such as cyclosporin, Opzelura is not recommended.
Opzelura can lower your ability to fight infections. Tell your doctor if you have or had an infection, TB, hepatitis B or C, blood clots in your legs or lungs, heart attack, stroke, cancer, high cholesterol, are a smoker, or pregnant. Opzelura may cause serious lung infections, certain cancers, immune system problems, blood clots, and low blood cell counts. Major cardiovascular events or death occurred in those 50 plus taking oral JAK inhibitors. The most common side effects were acne and itching where applied.
Call 866-564-8484 to learn more about prescription Opzelura for non-segmental vitiligo.